Good evening, dear Mediascope viewers. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. This evening, we'll be looking at the future of Turkey-US relations under the Biden administration. Turkey's former ambassador to Washington, D.C., Faruk Loğoğlu, will be joining us to speak about how he foresees the relationship to develop. But first, let's take a look at the coronavirus-related developments of the week. According to the data released by the Ministry of Health, as of January 28, the total number of positive coronavirus cases in Turkey has reached 2,457,118, while the death toll due to the virus has totaled 25,605 people.
6.5 million doses of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine arrived in Turkey on January 25. This is the second shipment of the 10 million doses that had been ordered. Vaccination in Turkey began on January 14 after the first batch of 3 million doses of the vaccine developed by China's Sinovac Biotech arrived on December 30. Over 1.23 million people, mostly healthcare workers and citizens above the age of 85, have been vaccinated since then. To boost the public confidence in the vaccine, Health Minister Fahrettin Koca and Erdoğan were among the first to be vaccinated. Health Minister Fahrettin Koca announced that, upon the suggestion of Turkey's Coronavirus Scientific Advisory Board, citizens above the age of 75 will start to be vaccinated in health institutions as of January 28. Public health specialist Dr. Nuriye Ortaylı spoke to Mediascope about the vaccination process in Turkey. According to Dr. Ortaylı,
the expectation from the vaccine is that it will decrease the number of deaths due to the virus. So the other preventative measures need to continue. The World Health Organization's advice is also in this direction. Ideally, it is best to bring down the number of cases as the vaccination process takes place, but I think many countries in the world, including Turkey, aim to bring down the positive number of cases with the vaccine. This is not realistic. Yet, the Sinovac vaccine will indeed decrease the severity of the illness and, as a result, decrease the death rate in risk groups. Much of the healthcare workers have been vaccinated, as well as citizens over the age of 85. Now, with the arrival of the second batch of vaccines, first of all, the second vaccination for the first groups needs to be done. So 3 million of the 6.5 million vaccines will be used for that. Then citizens above the age of 75 will be vaccinated. According to the statistics of the Turkish Statistical Institution, the number of this population is 2,300 million. Then, if more vaccines arrive, we can start vaccinating citizens above the age of 65. This is a population of about 5 million, so we need 10 million dosages of the vaccine just for them. This group should be followed by individuals at risk due to their jobs which force them to be in frequent and close contact with others. While there are question marks as to whether or not the vaccine actually decreases contaminations, it is still important that these people working at high-risk jobs should be included in the lineup for vaccination.
The Istanbul Court of Appeal overturned the acquittal of 9 defendants in the case of the Gizzy Park protests dating back to 2013. The globally recognized political prisoner Osman Kavala was among the 9 defendants whose acquittal was overturned.
the defendants Mücella Yapıcı, Can Atalay, Tayfun Kahraman, Çiğdem Mater, Mine Özer'den, Hakan Altınay, Yiğit Aksakoğlu, and Yiğit Ali Ekmekçi were acquitted by the Istanbul 30th Heavy Penal Court on February 18, 2020. However, Osman Kavala's imprisonment continued for charges relating to the 2016 coup attempt. On January 22 of 2021, an appeals court overturned the acquittal of these 8 defendants and of Osman Kavala. The appeals court stated that since the lower court did not investigate evidence such as defendants' social media posts, press releases, and slogans chanted in protests, their acquittal should be overturned. The Gizzy Park protests started in May 2013 on Istanbul's Taksim Square when the AKP government started cutting trees in the Gezi Park to construct a shopping mall and residence in its place. Millions of people nationwide started protesting as a reaction in what became one of the most significant anti-government protests in Turkey. Kavala was arrested on November 1st, 2017, with the charges of attempting to change the constitutional order and to overthrow the government. In his request of arrest, Kavala was alleged to be the head and financier of Gezi protests. He was acquitted of those charges in February 2020, though he was immediately arrested again on charges of attempting to overthrow the government by aiding the 2016 coup attempt. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled for Kavala''s immediate release, calling his imprisonment to be politically motivated, but it was ignored by the Turkish government. The Council of Europe's Committee of Ministers had also made numerous calls for Turkey to implement the ECHR decision. Regarding the rejection of acquittal and ignoring the ECHR ruling on Osman Kavala, Kavala''s lawyers Köksal Bayraktar, Deniz Tolga Aytöre, and İlkan Koyuncu stated the following. The important point to be known here is that the Gizzy file and the file containing the charge of violating the Constitution were examined by the European Court of Human Rights, and the decision of unfair arrest was given. While the ECHR stated that 3 articles of the European Convention on Human Rights were violated with the arrest of Osman Kavala, it also mentioned that the arrest was intended to silence rights advocacy. The verdict given by the Istanbul Court of Appeals last week is a verdict that doesn't take into account the content of the ECHR decision and that supports the concerns about political court rulings. As seen, the common point of all verdicts about Osman Kavala is that these verdicts were given despite the ECHR and the Committee of Ministers' decision and by disregarding these institutions and decisions.
This evening, Turkey's former ambassador to the United States, Faruk Loğoğlu, is with us to speak about the future of Turkey-US relations under the Biden administration.
Hello, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure to be here.
So I'd like to start by asking you the significance of a tweet you posted yesterday and updated this morning. In your tweet, you list the countries with whom the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has already conducted a telephone meeting. Now the list is long. I won't give the names of every country one by one, but in any case, Turkey is not on the list. So Blinken has not gotten in touch with his counterpart in Turkey as of yet. Does this signify something? Is Turkey's absence from this list important?
Yes, Turkey's absence from this list is important, but I think Turkey's turn will come, perhaps a little belatedly. What this list so far signifies is that the priority issues and countries for the new Secretary of State. I think if you notice, he started his telephone journey mostly in the Far East. Then he bounced back to Europe. Then a few injections in the Middle East, including Iraq and Jordan and Israel, of course. But I think this reflects the mindset of the new Secretary of State and probably of the new Biden administration. Turkey should have been on this list already, but I think given the problems and the declared approach of both Biden and his Secretary of State Blinken, it's not surprising, but I think the telephone call will take place in due time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, outside of this list, the future of Turkey-US relations has been much discussed since Biden has won the presidential elections. Last week, for example, Antony Blinken labeled Turkey as a so-called strategic partner, which was also kind of seen in a negative light, despite the setting and so forth. And more recently now, James Jeffrey's interview with Deutsche Welle, where he says he does not expect an improvement of ties between the US and Turkey under the Biden administration. So what do these statements signal for Turkey-US relations in the near future?
A relatively rough, tough time in Turkish-American relations. I don't really expect a breakup of relations in the near future, because the priorities of the Biden administration will be mostly inwards, mostly aimed at improving conditions, economic conditions, social conditions in the United States itself, and particularly the struggle, the effort to stop the coronavirus pandemic. But Turkey is on the list of the Biden administration in terms of issues to be tackled. What makes it a bit more difficult for people, including me, who follow Turkish-American relations, a little pessimistic, is that although prior stands of Biden and many of the people in his immediate surroundings, including Secretary of State, including the National Security Advisor, and others, and congressional leaders, like the Speaker of the House, Pelosi, the Vice President Kamala Harris, the Chairman of the Senate Relations Committee, Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Menendez. All these people have spoken against Turkey. And let's not forget two names, one in the National Security Council, McGurk, given his very difficult stand for Turkey in Syria, and Samantha Powers, who was appointed as chief of U.S. aid organization. Samantha Powers has written a book on genocide and has specifically accused in detail, supported Armenian claims of genocide by the Turks. So we are looking at a Biden team that is basically, given their past stance and recent statements, an anti-Turkish bloc. So it's going to really require a miracle of sorts to really make a good start with the new Biden administration. And I think the initial step is extremely clear, and that is the S-400 issue. I call it the password to Turkish-American relations. Not that once you get the password right, that Turkish-American relations will be all fine. No, it's just will enable the two sides to start looking at the bilateral and regional issues. So a certain problem is a major obstacle. And here, I think one thing is difficult to understand. Now, in Turkey, there are many very sensible arguments why the American position on S-400s is wrong, or is not justified. There are technical arguments, there are military arguments and whatnot. My point is, even if the American position on S-400s is wrong, it is their position. It's their position. I mean, you cannot, when the US decided to go to war in Iraq, their position of Saddam Hussein having masses of chemical weapons, it was wrong, but that was the reason why they went to war in Iraq. So it doesn't really matter whether a given position by the US is wrong, rightful, or whatever. It is what matters is that it is the position they are taking, and Turkey has to realize this and act accordingly. And that means that Turkey has to devise, by its own means, on its own, a way out of this S-400 issue. That is one major problem. The other one lurking in the background, which is highly specific with a given date, April 24. That is the day on which every American president issues a proclamation of referring to the Armenian claims of genocide. Now, maybe I'll take a minute to recall for our listeners that American President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and others, that other names that I mentioned, have all referred to these claims in positive terms, in supportive of the Armenian position on this issue. Now, it's given for a moment, let's assume that we have found a solution to the S-400 issue. Next will be in line the question of what President Biden will say on the 24th of April, recalling the events of 1915.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ambassador. So our most pressing issue is obviously the S-400s, as you mentioned. It's the United States' red line. And I suppose from what I gather from what you said, the ball is now in Turkey's court. So it's really up to Turkey to kind of figure out a way to get out of this situation, even though it has been reported in the Russian state media that Turkey has signed another agreement with Russia to get a second batch of the arms. So it doesn't look like Turkey is taking any kind of steps back from that agreement. And you also mentioned April 24th as another date ahead of us, looming ahead of us in terms of a potential conflict between the two nations. Now, I mean, the way U.S.-Turkey relations under the Trump administration worked were often as in relation to the personal relationship that the two leaders had. And obviously, this personal relationship did lead to moments of crisis, but somehow the relationship managed to gloss over the structural differences undermining the two countries' relationship. Now, we spoke a little bit about, Biden's team and Biden himself as having a kind of oppositional stance towards Turkey and his, generally speaking, in his political career. We also speak about relationships becoming more institutional based as opposed to personal relationships. Will the people part of the administration in the United States find their institutional counterpoints in Turkey?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of people in Turkey invest a great deal of hope in this institutional preference and approach of President Biden. It is true, I think, given his long political career and his even his first few days in office, he does like to work through the institutions of the American political system, which is good. I think that is a strength of and a value of democracy. The problem here is that in the former parliamentary system prevailing in Turkey, one could speak of counterpart institutions in Turkey, but that's no longer the case today. I think, yes, we have, of course, all the institutions by name in place. We have the Turkish foreign ministry, we have the Turkish parliament, but all the power and the final say, even the initial say, in any matter in Turkey is up to the president of Turkey. That's how the system works, or is supposed to work. So I think President Biden will, and his cabinet officers and his other people working with him will find difficulty in finding proper zip codes and addresses to reach in Turkey. Ultimately, everything will devolve into the hands of the president. I think the latest illustration of this is we saw in the talks between Turkey and Greece, and the so-called exploratory talks, where these talks, 60 of them before the last one, have always been conducted by the Foreign Ministry, usually the Undersecretary of the Foreign Ministry heads these talks. In the last one, we had sitting at the table along with the members of Turkish Foreign Ministry, Mr. Ibrahim Kalın, the spokesman of the Turkish president. So even there, I think the message was given that ultimately the buck stops at the presidential palace. So still, there is of course some value in judging the prospective attitude of the new administration, and as they reach the different quarters in Turkey, which they should still, then we might have some modicum of conversation, some semblance of conversation between Turkey and the US at different levels and through different channels. But Biden will not provide, very unlikely to provide, is a direct channel to President Erdogan to take up the phone every time he wants to reach Biden. If that serves a purpose, a mutual purpose, yes, it should happen. I mean, I'm not saying it should not happen, but I think given the setup and the stance of President Biden and his administration regarding Turkish affairs, it is unlikely that we will see a similar connection that we saw between President Erdogan and President Trump.
One of the people that is also going to be at the forefront in this, in these relations to come is the new ambassador appointed from Turkey to the US, Murat Mercan. So he, just for some, maybe perhaps you can expand on this background information for our viewers. He's not a career diplomat, but an academic and also a former MP for the AKP. And the previous ambassador to the US, so Serdar Kılıç, has been characterized as an ineffective ambassador, and his time in Washington as an introverted period where they only had contacts with AKP-funded think tanks and analysts. And so under the Biden administration, where we're foreseeing more diplomatic relations among institutions rather than personal relations, will Mercan's appointment have an effect, a positive effect on the relations between the two countries? Will he be able to soften the Congress's stance, for example, towards Turkey?
Appointment of Mr. Mercan could potentially have a positive impact on Turkish-American relations. I say potentially because I will explain what I mean by that. Mr. Mercan was educated in the US, has a lot of experience with the US, has the ear of President Erdogan. He has direct access to President Erdogan. That's also an advantage. And it might replace the connection between Erdogan and Trump. How Mr. Mercan will have direct connection, direct access to President Erdogan in Turkey, and will therefore communicate firsthand the thinking and the expectations and hopes of President Erdogan vis-a-vis the United States. So this, and he already has logged some diplomatic experience as ambassador in Japan. where apparently he was very active. I know him personally. I think he's an outgoing man. He has a smile on his face. These are all positive assets. But the problem is, none of this will be enough for him to be effective, to be an effective ambassador in Washington, D.C. First, let's look at the American side. We have an administration, starting with Biden, his vice president, and all the other names I've mentioned, plus a Congress that is very stringently against Turkey, with Armenian resolutions, with sanctions resolutions waiting in line against Turkey, a speaker who is known for her anti-Turkish views, and so forth. So we have a Congress, and not just the Republicans, and not just, but both parties, Democratic and Republicans, have these negative feelings vis-a-vis Turkey. And not just the Congress, but also the American media, the American think tanks. Turkey has very few friends left in the US, and very critical. The Jewish lobby is no longer with Turkey, because Jewish lobby is really the third leg of Turkish-American relation. Turkey, the US, and the Jewish-Israeli leg. And this makes the job of the new Turkish ambassador extremely difficult, but even that is not that important. What is even more important is what's he going to present to the US, the administration, the Congress, the media, the think tanks, and so forth. Turkey's foreign policy, Turkey's entire approach toward the US, the European Union, despite the recent statements, openings toward the West, the European Union and the United States, the American, the new Turkish ambassadors must be fed with a new strategy, with a new outlook, with a new orientation of putting Turkey firmly as a democratic, secular state with the rule of law really prevailing in Turkey. This is the Turkey that can partner with the West and with the rest of the world. I think foreign policy is just an extension of your domestic makeup, your spiritual, your mental, your social, your political makeup as a democratic secular state with the rule of law prevailing in your country. And for this to happen, Turkey has to undergo a dramatic transformation, first at home, in terms of really moving with real concrete steps toward restoring democracy in Turkey, and then this transforming Turkish foreign policy, and preferably starting with a reset of its relations in the region, including and starting with Israel.
And as opposed to Trump, I guess the Biden himself is someone who cares about these issues, human rights issues, and lack of freedom of expression and so forth. So the Turkish government won't be able to kind of let that slide for too long, and might have to take proper, real reforms in terms of reestablishing the rule of law and the democratic institutions in the country.
Absolutely, I think that is, and this is not just for the sake of Turkish-American relations.
Yeah.
This is for our sake, for the people of Turkey. And once that is done, I mean, there was a time not long ago when Turkey was the envy of the Islamic world because of its democracy, because of its secular makeup, because of its where the rule of law really counted, was a reality, and because of its connections in NATO, the European Union, and the United States. This is not to say that we should turn our back to Russia or to others. No, Turkey is a country that must and can and has done in the past maintained positive relations in all directions. We have to. Turkey is a pivotal country. In what sense? Because Turkey is at the epicenter of all the prevailing and potential conflicts in the world. Look at the Balkans, the Black Sea, the Caucasus, Iran, the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, and so forth. Now, Eastern Mediterranean, North Africa. Turkey is at the epicenter of all these conflicts. So what Turkey does and doesn't do is of a great deal of importance to its allies and to its neighbors, including Russia and other neighbors in the region. And for all these reasons, Turkey must be strong at home, and strong means not just strong economy, which is important, but also strong democracy, strong rule of law, and unswerving commitment to the secular character of our society.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for having joined us today.
My pleasure. I hope it was useful.
President Erdogan visited the chairman of the Felicity Party High Advisory Board, Oğuzhan Asiltürk, at his home on January 7th, a step seen as the AKP's efforts to find new allies for the next elections. In accordance, Felicity Party Chair Temel Karamollaoğlu said his party could consider joining the People's Alliance only if provided a change to the presidential system.
After his visit to Asiltürk, Erdogan stated that his visit aimed both for a possible future election alliance and to achieve the Felicity Party's support in the government's fight against terrorism. In turn, Karamollaoğlu stated that an alliance with the AKP was possible if they changed policies on what the Felicity Party finds wrong. Karamollaoğlu pointed at the next election period, which is scheduled for 2023, to discuss the issue. Alliances are not a coalition. Therefore, I believe that it is not right to bring up these issues early and make long-standing, especially speculative comments, he added. Karamollaoğlu has been in close contact with the breakaway parties from the AKP, especially with the leader of the Future Party, Ahmet Davutoğlu, as both seek to capitalize on disenchanted AKP supporters in the coming elections by criticizing the rhetoric and one-man rule of Erdogan. The People's Alliance is an electoral alliance in Turkey, established in February 2018 between the Justice and Development Party and the Nationalist Movement Party. On the other end, the Nations Alliance consists of 4 opposition parties, namely the Republican People's Party, the E-Party, the Felicity Party, and the Democratic Party. The Felicity Party is the successor of the Welfare Party, where President Erdogan's political career began. Erdogan and a group of party members later had split from the party to form the AKP. Regarding Felicity Party's future alliances and whether it will join the People's Alliance, leaving the Nations Alliance, Medyascope editor-in-chief Ruşen Çakır stated the following. Felicity Party joining the People's Alliance seems to be on the agenda of the party. I don't believe this is a strong possibility. While the management of the party may agree on such a decision, it will not be easy to carry their voter base into accepting this new alliance with the AKP. I think the voter base will have doubts and might not follow the party management in that direction. Nonetheless, this is still seriously being considered. Erdogan is in need of votes in order to remain in power. However, I think here he also cares about the symbolic meaning. The CHP has made an alliance with the Felicity Party, which is a party established as the successor of the Welfare Party. This is something that is forcing the hand of Erdogan in terms of political ideology. He does not tolerate this alliance and thus wants to create a divide between the Felicity Party and Kılıçdaroğlu. For Erdogan, having the Felicity Party on their side gives the Nation Alliance legitimacy, and Erdogan wants to limit that.
The People's Democratic Party has approached 4 opposition parties to schedule a meeting regarding the democracy and justice issues in Turkey. The first meeting will be held with the Felicity Party on February 1st.
People's Democratic Party, HDP, got in touch with the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, Deva Party, Future Party, and the Felicity Party to make an appointment for a meeting. In the meeting, the opposition parties will discuss and share their views about the problems of Turkey regarding democratization and justice. This is a common initiative between the parties within an alliance under the intention of testing the water for a possible alliance and exchanging views on the country's problems. HDP's such move came amid the unceasing attempts of the Nationalist Movement Party chair Devlet Bahçeli to close down the Kurdish majority HDP. The attempt to criminalize HDP through associating the Kurdish majority party with terrorism has been on MHP's nationalist agenda for a long time. And as MHP joined the People's Alliance with the ruling Justice and Development Party of President Erdogan, the AKP government started to follow MHP's nationalist agenda as well. The HDP is frequently accused by the AKP government and the MHP of having ties to the PKK, a terrorist organization recognized by the United States and the European Union. Many HDP officials and party members are behind bars on charges related to the PKK, along with the party's former co-chairs Selahattin Demirtaş and Figen Yüksekdağ. Even though HDP is the third largest party in parliament after the AKP and the main opposition Republican People's Party, HDP is facing significant pressure. The current co-chair of HDP, Mithat Sancar, spoke to Medyascope editor-in-chief Ruşen Çakır on MHP's call for the party's closure. Regarding his views on the possibility of HDP's closure, HDP co-chair Mithat Sancar stated the following: "Closure threats do not disturb us in any way. It does not cause us anxiety by any means. Let me make that straight. I don't know if we would ever get to that stage. I do not want to make any speculations in that regard. However, if you are going to ground on legal order, every single accusation that is pointed towards us today has been refuted in the European Court of Human Rights ruling of 2016 on the closure of DTP. This is to say, if there is to be a closure case through the publicly articulated reasonings, as long as the Constitutional Court grounds on the ECHR ruling, this closure case is not supposed to result in closure. To open this case means to sentence Turkey to a far darker picture. It means to further undermine democracy. It means to completely suspend legislation. And it means to jeopardize the future relations with Europe."
A Turkish cargo ship was attacked by pirates off the coast of Guinea late Saturday, during which 15 sailors were kidnapped and one was killed.
The ship, named MV Mozart, which was traveling from Lagos to Cape Town, was sailing 100 sea miles northwest of the African island country Sao Tome when the Nigerian pirates boarded the ship. According to first reports, 15 out of 19 sailors were kidnapped. Farman Ismailov, an Azerbaijani engineer, was killed. After taking most of the crew on Saturday, the pirates left the ship in the Gulf of Guinea with 3 soldiers on board, state-run Anadolu News Agency said. President Erdogan spoke to the senior officer remaining on the ship, Furkan Yaren. The Turkish presidency said in a tweet. It added that Erdogan issued orders for the recovery of the kidnapped crew. Yaren was cited as saying the pirates beat crew members and left him with an injured leg, while another, still aboard the ship, had shrapnel wounds. Kidnappings and piracy for ransom in Nigeria and the Gulf of Guinea are common. A similar attack occurred in 2019 when a Turkish cargo ship was attacked by Nigerian pirates and 10 sailors, all Turkish nationals, were taken hostage for ransom. Later, all sailors were released.
The pirates have made their first contact with the shipping company to discuss a ransom on January 28. A statement was made by the Istanbul-based Boden Shipping Company, which provides technical management services for the vessel. The company has stated that all 15 crew members are in good health, not wounded, and together. That's all from This Week in Turkey. See you next Friday at 9 p.m. Good night.